So what are we going to talk about today? So for me, it's a very simple thing. If I look around me, if I talk to people, corporates, individuals, family members, what I'm hearing is a lot of negative talk. And I mean a lot of negative talk. You talk to people and they complain because, we had two incomes in the household. Now we've got half an income in the household. It's tough. We're not being able to pay bills. And small businesses are complaining. Medium-sized business guys are complaining. Large corporates are complaining. I just heard this morning, Tongaat Sugar is going under administration. There's so many signs and things happening around us that's not going well. And a lot of people are feeling the effects. Francois used the word post-COVID babbelas or hangover. I think that's a very good description for what a lot of people are experiencing. So what are we going to do today? What are we going to do about it? Well, firstly, we're going to look at really just what happened. And secondly, we need to find a solution. And I'm hopefully going to give you guys a couple of practical steps you can do. You can apply on yourself and your teams, because that's the end of it. If we don't have something we can do, then we're just talking pink and fluffy rubbish, and it's not going to assist us. So we need to find out what to fix, how to fix it, and exactly what to do. So hopefully we can go there. But let's start off just firstly on understanding exactly what happened. Because if we understand what happened and we can pinpoint where it happened, then we know where to fix it. It's a simple concept. If you've got a flat tire in your car and you put it into a garage, you're not going to ask them to change the oil. It's not going to fix the problem. We need to know exactly what the problem is to know what to fix it. So what's happened in our country, what's happened around the world? People are in a lull. It's as if a lot of people have just lost their fire, lost their zest, lost their passion. And the main question now is, how did it happen? Well, it actually started quite a few years ago. It started just before lockdown when we had a little bit of let's call it a political unease in the country. Our economy started to take a bit of a knock. This put a lot of people into a little bit of a negative, mindset. Then lockdown came in, surprised everybody. We thought it was going to be 2 weeks. It went to 3 weeks. 3 months later, we were still stuck in our homes. Throughout the process of lockdown, with COVID coming in, a lot of people lost family members and friends they couldn't greet properly. And there was this uncertainty of what was happening. We've come out of lockdown, our economy is still taking a knock, and then we got thrown in with load shedding. So what is the effect all of this had on the brain? The first thing we need to realize is it's not necessarily directly one individual's fault, but things happen on the outside, and what we do as humans, we actually take accountability for it. So I'll go very practical with this quickly. So last night, all the Joburgers here, we had a storm, didn't we? I mean, wow. So the house I'm staying in is on a little bit of a hill. And trust me when I say that hill loves thunder and lightning. So when there's a storm, I can't sleep. It's loud. But there was also a huge amount of rain coming down, and we've got electric fence around the property. So what happened? Well, my neighbors are not as diligent in cutting their branches as I am, and a lot of these branches fell on the fence. So early hours of the morning, I was running around outside trying to figure out why the fence is screaming. One of the neighbors was awake on the other side. He was screaming at me. So here's the thing I want you guys to understand. Was the fact that my neighbor's branches fell on my fence triggered the alarm my fault directly? No, not necessarily. But I took accountability for it. Somehow it made me feel bad that I've woken my neighbors. My wife was woken up, and somehow I almost want to say responsibility for what happened. At the same time, the one neighbor started screaming at me. In fact, I think it was a tomato or something he threw over the wall at me because he was angry because I woke him up. It was actually the storm that woke him up, I guess, but he blamed me, and I felt bad about it. In the same process, while I was running around outside in the rain trying to figure out what's happening, I closed the security gate, which is a slam lock. So now I'm standing outside my house. I can't get back in because I don't have the key. I had to stand outside in this noisy storm, screaming at my wife, trying to wake her up to come out to open the sliding gate, trying to explain to her what's happening in all the chaos. So what happened was I had a sequence of events. And I remember getting in bed and just feeling absolutely despondent, exhausted, angry, frustrated, irritated, and even a little bit anxious. And it took me a while to calm down to be able to sleep. And the reason I'm telling you guys this story is because this is exactly what happened over the last couple of years with us. So the human brain, what it does is we form what we call hope. Another word for hope is an expectation of an outcome. So a few years ago, we all had, and this is pre-lockdown, pre-COVID, we all had expectations. We had expectations in our careers, in our personal lives, in what our companies was going to achieve, where we were going. We had expectations of celebrating it by going on great holidays, getting married, having an amazing life. So these expectations was our driving force. And then things started to happen that started to dilute the expectation, that started spoiling the expectation, that started disrupting our hope. And we were put into a situation where we were constantly bombarded with something else that's going wrong. Now, what happens when we go through this? We need to understand how we function as humans. We are creatures of conditioning. So let me give you another explanation. If I take someone that can see 100% well, nothing wrong with their sight, and I lock that person in a very dark room for 10 years, if I let them come out after 10 years, they will not be able to see properly. Because what's happened, the physiology has been altered. Because they've been in the dark for 10 years, the brain literally stops the function of being able to see. And the brain literally rewires a lot of the functionality. Another example of this is if you take a young child at the age of, say, 4 or 5, where they learn languages, the brain is wired to develop the ability to speak. So we learn languages very fast. If you want to try and learn a language that's 35 or 40 or 50 years old, you're going to struggle because your brain is not wired to learn languages anymore. So you've got to retrain the brain. So the brain conditions itself according to its environment. Does it make any sense? The brain conditions itself according to the environment, literally on a natural way or biological way that happens. Inside of our brains, we've got a whole lot of different neuron pathways. In fact, we've got millions and billions of neurons. And these neurons adopt according to what it believes is required for the situation. Now, if we go through a sequence of years of negative external experiences, and we are constantly exposed to this in our conversations, in our internal thoughts, in our reactions, our responses, in every sign we see around us, then the brain very often and very easily starts to wire accordingly. So what's happened, and this is a world phenomena, for the first time, literally since the Second World War, there's a vast majority of people that's had their brains rewired into a negative, despondent state. A vast majority of people around the world. In some countries, it's worse than in others, because in our country, for example, with our political unrest, with load shedding happening, with our economy that's also, had its own influence, it's just been put on steroids. So that constant exposure to negative conditioned the average person to rewire the neurons to be more focused on the negative. So I'm going to give another practical example. If you go into nature and you go for a hike, you decide you're going to go on this magnificent walk, and you're really enjoying it, and you're walking enthusiastically, and you're loving this experience, but you don't really watch where you're going, and you injure your ankle. Then your brain puts on an alertness from there onwards for the rest of the walk to ensure it doesn't happen again. It's a self-protective mechanism. So what happens is literally, it's almost like a satellite dish on your head that's alerted, and it now starts looking for other obstacles so you won't injure yourself again. Now, if you condition to that scenario year in, year out for 5, 6, 7 years, the brain literally rewires to start focusing on what could possibly go wrong. So here's the key. It's rewired to look at what can possibly go wrong, but not look at what could possibly go right. And that's what happened generally to a lot of people around the world, and very definitely in South Africa. And we see it. We hear it in the conversations. I mean, how many of you guys speak to family members or friends, and the conversations are just about things that's gone wrong, about the negative? Because that's the way the brain has been rewired, literally rewired. So we've shifted from an attitude of hope and expectation for something positive to an attitude of concern, worry, and I want to bring in the word anxiety. So the brain natural alarm system has shifted and has reorganized the way we experience life. So can we fix it? Yes, but we need to know exactly what to fix and how to fix it. So I'm going to shift the conversation from this negative, what went wrong, to how do we fix it? You guys want to know how to fix it? Because it is possible. It is possible. So the first thing we need to absolutely realize is that we need to retrain the brain. We need to retrain the functionality of the neuron connections in the brain. Now, to start that off, I want to mention something. Years ago, and I'm going back to probably about 20 years ago, one of my hobbies was racing motorbikes, racing around Kyalami and Swartkops and all kinds of tracks. Man, what a thrill. If you've ever raced a motorbike on track, you know what I'm talking about. It's an adrenaline rush of note. It's like really exciting stuff. Racing into a corner at a very, very high speed, having to brake, go around the bend, get out the other side alive is, to me, just an amazing, amazing, amazing experience. But there was a golden rule when we used to race that everybody used to teach us. All the masters used to say this. They used to say that where you look is where you will go. So if you go into a corner and you look down at the road and you're concerned that you're going to hit the tarmac, then that's probably what's going to happen. If you go into a corner very fast and you look through the curve to the exit of the corner, then that's where you would go. We follow where we look. So that's the first thing that we need to understand in retraining the brain. We need to retrain the brain so it looks somewhere else. What's happening at the moment, we are looking down at the tar road, at the things that scare us, at the things that could possibly go wrong. And literally, that's where we tend to go quite easily, because that's just the way we function. We do go where we look. So how do we retrain the brain? Firstly, we need to understand that we have thoughts, and we need to start with our own thoughts. Now, there's something we need to understand about thoughts. Number one, they're fleeting, and they change instantly. And the third thing is they're multiple. So when we think, the human brain doesn't think about one concept at a time. The human brain thinks about multiple concepts, and it usually thinks about the positive and the negative. So when you think about going to work, just the morning, you're getting dressed, you're just thinking about going to work for the day. There's multiple thoughts running through your brain about going to work. There's the positive, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to get a salary, hopefully, a full one. There's another thought that I need to impress my manager or my team leader today or my clients. There's another thought that I'm going to enjoy the interaction with the colleagues that I enjoy interacting with. I don't always enjoy interacting with all of them. We are weird creatures that way. We are selective. But there's a positive there. There's also a negative that I'm hoping that I'm going to perform well today, because whatever I do is going to go on my performance review. So there's all these multiple thoughts. But what is interesting is most of the thoughts operate in duality. For the human brain to understand a concept, it needs to understand the duality of the concept. So I need to understand up to comprehend down. I need to understand in to comprehend out. I need to understand white to comprehend black. I need to understand good to understand bad. So the first thing we need to realize is that when we think, we need to appreciate our thoughts, and we need to retrain the brain to realize that whenever we think of something, there is a flip side to it. When we think about the negative potential that's out there, the brain also has the capability to think of the positive solution. It's a reality of the brain. The brain doesn't understand a negative unless it also understands the positive. The brain doesn't understand a problem unless it understands the solution. I'll give you a quick explanation. If you look around the room you're at now, is there a window? Is there a glass pane somewhere? Can you look around? Is there a glass pane? If that glass pane or that window had a massive crack on it and it was shattered, big crack and cracks all over, shattered piece of glass, how would your brain know that that piece of glass is shattered? It's got a crack, it's broken. How would your brain know? Most people will tell you, because I can see the cracks. That's not really true. The reason the brain knows it's cracked is because the brain understands the opposite, the flip side, the duality. It understands what a whole piece of glass looks like. So when it's cracked, it can identify, here's a problem, because it knows the reverse side. When we go through life and we know logically that we are a little bit despondent, that we've lost our fire, that we're not as zestful, that we've not as energized, we also know the opposite. That's the first thing we need to understand. So that awareness in its own is the first thing that you need to raise your consciousness about. So when you go into a negative thought pattern, ask yourself a simplistic question. What is the positive side of this thought? So if you're going to a negative pattern, and let's say you're in a business, your team is not performing well, and that's your concern, what is the other side of this thought? The other side of this thought is that I'm creative, I am smart, I have got a team, there are capabilities, we do have talents, we have gifts, we've done it before, we can do it again, because that's the spirit of human nature. We are incredibly great at standing up again and moving forward. So hold on to the concept that even though you're thinking negative, there is positive thoughts in your brain at the same time. The one that you're going to experience the most of is the one that your awareness is focused on the most. So if you are more aware of the negative thoughts, you're going to experience the negative stronger. If you retrain your thought pattern to become more aware of the positive thoughts, the potential thoughts, the option thoughts, and I'm not saying unrealistic thoughts. You know, if you're walking in a field of thorns, you can't go, I'm walking in a field of flowers. You're lying to yourself. Your brain is not that stupid. It's going to know you're walking in a field of thorns. But you can say to yourself, I can walk out of these thorns into a field of flowers. Or I can take a fork, I can turn the swirl, remove these thorns and weeds, plant something beautiful, water it, nurture it, fix it, change it. Yes, it will take time, but I've got the capability, the talents, and the gifts to be able to do it. So redirect your thought pattern to options, hope, potential, where you want to go. In other words, train yourself to look where you want to go, not where you are afraid to go. Can I repeat that? Train your thoughts to look where you want to go instead of allowing it to tell you where you're afraid to go, because both exist at the same time. The one you're going to experience the most of is merely the one that you allow your own internal magnifying glass to focus on. So that's where we want to start. Retrain your own thoughts, because thoughts are nothing else but you talking to you. It's an internal dialogue. And the quality of that dialogue is only in your hands. No one else can shift it for you. There are ways you can improve it. There's a wonderful old saying that motivational speakers and inspirational speakers will say, surround yourself with powerful people. And the reason for that is they talk positive, they talk solutions, they talk options, they talk outcomes. And we often emulate that, we adopt those habits, and then it becomes easier for us. So start with your thoughts. The second thing is start with your words. Shift your language. There's different ways in saying things. So one of the first tricks is remove the word but and because from your language pattern and replace it with the word and. I'll give you an example. A lot of people, when I talk to them, they say, you know, how are you doing? I said, no, I'm doing fine, but I'm struggling in my business. So the moment we say the word but, what we're actually doing is on a subconscious level, we just totally negate what we've said before it. It's almost as if we're saying, it's going well, but no, it's not going well. I just lied. And then the brain focuses on the second part of the statement, and that becomes the truth of what we actually hear. But if I use the word and, it's going well, and my business is struggling, it's really difficult to end that statement only on a negative, because if I use the word and, it means there's something else. There's something else. It's going well, and my business is not doing well, but I know that I've got options to come out. It's very easy for the brain to now add an extra positive to its own statement. Why is this important? Two reasons. Number one, when we speak, other people hear our words and we impact them. Number two, when we speak, we hear our words and we believe it. Because my ear hears my words, my heart believes it. So my own language pattern needs to shift to what? Again, not to lies. You know, don't tell yourself lies. You're not that stupid. You'll know you're lying. But shift your language pattern to possibility language. What is possibility language? Possibility language just says there is something else that can be done. At no stage in our lives have we run out of solutions, options, or alternatives. There's always something else that can be done. And possibility language stimulates the creative juices in the brain. When we speak possibility language, the brain actually goes into a creative state. And when you say one possibility, the brain very often starts to think about a second, third, or fourth possibility. When I communicate and say it out loud in front of other people, I also stimulate their creative juices to start thinking about possibilities. So not only am I triggering my own creativity, my own thought patterns to think out of the box and come up with solutions, I'm also stimulating those around me. And if they respond to it, I'm now creating a snowball effect. I'm putting it on steroids, and both of us are getting a benefit. So my words actually has a enormous impact. Again, try and don't lie, and I'm going to say this, don't speak like a bad politician, because human beings are not stupid. We have got instinct, and we do read between the lines, and authenticity is the ideal undercurrent for possibility language. So be honest with self and be honest with those around you, because through that, we give them permission to do the same. Be as authentic as you possibly can. If you're going to be extremely fake, it's actually off-putting. People don't like it. I think the world is up to here with fake, because we're bombarded from it, from so many angles that we really don't want that anymore. We want authenticity. We've got an absolute desire for authenticity. So speak possibility language with authenticity, and notice how it changes your own internal thoughts. It's going to change your state. It's going to change the way you feel, and it's going to impact those around you. And if you do it correctly and consistently, it will bounce back they are going to reflect it in their responses and reactions to you. So that will stimulate you as well. So there's your second practical. Well, number one, focus on your thoughts. Number two, start changing your words. Change your language. Change your language to possibility and options language, alternative language. All right. That's the first thing. The second reason why speaking different words is important is the type of brain functionality we use when we think is less structured, more fleeting than when we speak. For us to speak, the brain has to structure its thoughts first, put it into some kind of a strategy, and then we deliver. So when we start speaking differently, we are actually also retraining the brain to think differently, because now it has to structure the thoughts to be able to say them properly. So this sounds weird, but in other words, think before you speak. Think before you speak. Because what you're doing is you're also forcing the restructuring and the retraining of the brain. And as we retrain the brain, the neurons inside the brain, the pathways start regrowing, starts redeveloping, and we have a different functionality in the brain. Now, on that tone of getting the brain to think differently, there's a third action that's an absolute in my book, an absolute. Start writing options and possibilities down. Why is that important? For me to think about something, my brain functions in a certain way. For me to say something, there needs to be more structure. For me to write what I want to say, to write it down, there's a completely different level of structuring that needs to happen in my brain. The written language is different to the spoken language, is different to the thinking language. The written language has got more solidity in it. It's more logic. It's more structured. And the moment I start writing things down, writing what down? Writing down my goals, writing down steps to how to achieve it, writing down alternative actions I can take, writing down a proper time schedule of things that I want to achieve and can achieve, being smart about it, writing down alternative things that can be done, writing down things that I'm grateful for, write them down. Why? If I write things that I'm grateful for down, I am actually retraining where my brain focuses. I am reteaching the internal magnifying glass of my own brain, of where to look. Because when I start looking at things I'm grateful for, it alters my internal state, and I tend to feel a little bit more motivated and very often more courageous to start doing different things. So write them down. Let other people read it yourself. Just put it on paper. It's a very strange thing when we put things on paper. It's almost as if we make it more alive. You know, it's like I had a friend that had a farm, and he had a couple of sheep on the farm. And I remember going there the one holiday, and my wife just loved the one lamb because they were feeding it with a bottle. And it's the cutest thing. If you've never fed a little lamb with a bottle, please try and do it. It's so cute. They are unbelievable. I just wanted to take it home and keep it as a pet and let it sleep in the bed with me, but apparently it's not a good idea. But what my wife did is she started naming these lambs. And my friend said, please, no, don't name them. You can't give him, you can't give him a name and call him Isaiah, because at some stage we're going to have lunch and the kids are going to ask, who are we eating? And you're going to have to say Isaiah. There's some kind of an attachment to it the moment you give it a name. The same thing or the same concept kind of happens when we start putting things down on paper. It's almost as if we give it structure, we give it a stronger reality, we give it life, we're giving it a name. It becomes more real to us the moment we put things down on paper. I write an extreme amount. I've got clipboards and paper lying around all over, next to my bed, my office, outside at the braai, and on the dining room table. It freaks my family out because I've got notes all over the place. But I'm constantly writing things down because it teaches my brain to think more structured, better, etc. The second reason why you want to write things down is thoughts are fleeting. They come and they go very quickly. And our memories are not always that great at remembering what we thought of. If you guys have woken up at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning and you solved the world's problems. It was like genius thoughts. And then tomorrow morning you wake up and you try to remember what you thought about it. It's like, should have written it down. I should have recorded it. Our thoughts are fleeting. Great thoughts come and go. If you look at the great thinkers in history, what they would do is they'd always put pen to paper. They'd write their thoughts down. They knew thoughts come and go. We forget great thoughts. So put it down on paper, because then you can go back to it. You've got a reference point. If you put on something great on paper and you really enjoyed it, expand on it. Go back tomorrow, read it again and say, what can I add to this? How can I make this even better? It forces, again, just repeating this, it forces the brain again just to structure its own thoughts. But the subconscious effect of this is it brings in hope. It brings in a sense of possibility. And the moment we have hope and a sense of possibility, and we put it down on paper, we're taking dreams and we're making them goals, and something in the brain starts to tell us that this is achievable. The moment the brain goes, this is achievable, we are inspired, we are motivated. We don't need a kick up to move. There's something drawing us towards movement. Now, in all of this, there's a little bit of a key. There's a golden key here, guys, that I want to mention. These thoughts, dreams, aspirations, things you're grateful for, all of these things you're going to write down or think about or talk about, usually as one of two drivers. The one type of driver is a driver that's trying to prevent something negative. So I'll give you a quick example. And I'm going to use one of the biggest industries in the world. I'm going to use people that are overweight, if that's okay. Diet industry is one of the largest industries in the world. So, and I'm going to use this because this is something almost everybody's exposed to. So a lot of people go on a diet because they don't want to be fat. I did say that word. Don't worry. I'm not going to go to hell because of that word. A lot of people go on a diet because they don't want to be fat. In other words, their strategy on eating boiled chicken and broccoli for 7 years is because they're trying to prevent something that they don't want. That's called an away from strategy. So here's the golden rule of an away from strategy. It always fails. It always fails. It's not sustainable, ever. It will always fail. At some stage, the thing you're trying to avoid becomes less important than the pleasure that's the opposite of it. Hello? Guys got that? So what works? A toward strategy. What is a toward strategy? I am overweight and I want to live a healthy, zestful, energized, fun life. Now the outcome becomes positive. There's a joy, there's a celebration, there's some kind of a reward in it. It's I'm gonna enjoy my life a little bit more. I'm gonna have more fun. My job function is going to be better. I'm going to be more productive. I'm going to enjoy dancing a little bit more. I'm going to enjoy my personal relationships more. I'm going to go and be able to do things that I haven't been able to do before. A positive towards. So whatever strategies you build some kind of an internal self-celebration or reward in there. Not an external bribe, an internal self-celebration. So if I put down my thoughts, I want to improve my career, I want to improve my team performance, I want to improve my relationships, I want to improve my health, whatever it is, we need to look at what is the gift it's going to bring. What is the satisfaction? What's the joy? What's the pleasure you're going to gain from it? Put that down on paper as well, because that becomes your motivator. That becomes your inspiration. People don't lose weight because they want to be skinny. People that lose weight because they want to be healthy. They want to be energized. That's the real reason. That's the benefit. People don't want to have a body that looks like a Greek god just because they want a body. They want the benefit of it. They want the results of it. They want the outcome of it. Yes? It's the joy, it's the pleasure it's going to bring. People don't go to work because they want to earn a salary, to pay for a house they don't need, to impress people they don't like, to pay for a car that's too expensive. That's not why we work. We work because we want to develop ourselves. We want to have a great quality of life. We want to be able to spend money on beautiful things that gives us pleasure. That's why we work. We want to expand our horizons and who we are, and we want to interact with amazing other people that's on the same path. So if we understand the reasons behind why we do what we do, then we tend to do it better. If you work because you don't want to live in poverty, you're only going to work hard enough not to get fired. You're not going to excel at it. If you work because you understand it's going to bring you a vast amount of benefits and other levels of satisfaction, you'll put in that extra energy, you'll put in the extra hours, not because you feel you have to, but because you want to, and you're going to perform better, and you're increasing your possibility of success. So a strategy based on towards something you're going to gain increases the sustainability and the potential of achieving it. So whatever you write down, make sure it's a towards strategy. Is that okay? I hope you guys got that one. I went very fast. Don't worry. We are recording this and you'll get the recording. So if you miss something, you'll be able to get it. So what else can we do? One of the things that we can do if someone is really in that I'm going to use the word burnt out state. I don't personally believe that we're actually going to a burnt out state, because that means we've got to, self-ignite and burn out physically, but we feel like we burnt out. And a lot of the times the brain has been conditioned so negatively that we just cannot snap out of it. And I get frustrated when people say, but just snap out of it. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work that way. It's a process that you need to take someone through. So if you've got team members or you yourself experience this, here's a couple of practical things you can do. So number one, take whatever you want to achieve and go find extremely small goals. Write them down, put a timeline to it, and put some kind of a celebration attached to it. Literally like waking up and brushing your teeth, all of them. Who's got kids? Did you brush your teeth? Yes, mommy. All of them. No, go back. All of them. Small little achievements. Make your own bed. Dress up nicely. Put in a little bit of energy and effort. Take small goals in the work environment, small challenges, small steps, things that you can achieve where you've got about 3 or 4 different achievements in a day. Why would that work? What's going to happen now is a key to it. It's got to be a small goal. There's got to be some kind of a measure of achievement in, and there's got to be some kind of a celebration in. So a celebration can just be a fist bump. Yeah, just that's it. That's fine. It can be something as simplistic as that. But there's got to be some kind of a celebration. Why? Because what you're doing is you're retraining your brain to become a goal achiever. If you are constantly celebrating it, the chemicals in your brain starts producing differently. And every time you achieve and there's a celebration, even if it's just a fist bump, and your brain produces those happy chemicals, you actually get addicted to it. And something in you shifts where I want to achieve goals. I want to achieve goals. So the trick is to be able to start with small ones. And as you start achieving them and you're not getting that thrill, increase the size of them. Make them bigger, make them bigger, make them bigger. A little bit, 1-2% small shifts, but make them a little bit bigger, make them a little bit bigger, make them a little bit bigger. What this does, it actually retrains your brain to start increasing dopamine production. And that's the ideal what you want. So there is some things you should not do if you're in that state. And one of them is please get off the cell phone games. Because the cell phone games actually teaches the brain to reproduce a false form of dopamine and suppresses your natural dopamine production. So sorry for those love. I don't know what's it one name, the game that was so popular once. There's something Farm, Candy Crush, and whatever, all these things. Get off those stuff, guys. Get off those stuff. It produces a false form. It's a very easy form of gratification you're achieving, but it's a false form of gratification. It actually retrains the brain to produce a false form of dopamine, and it suppresses the natural true dopamine production. So just get off them a little bit for a while. Just give yourself a break for about a year. It's all you need, and then you can play them again. All right. Next thing you can do, and again, this is a practical thing. Something that happened during lockdown, we went into isolation, we put on masks, we stopped greeting people, we didn't do the handshake anymore, we most certainly didn't hug. And what happened is our natural systems actually started producing less oxytocin. Oxytocin is a happy chemical in the brain that we absolutely need. We cannot survive without it. We really, really, really do need it. And the best way to get oxytocin is personal contact. So I know this is going to sound hug a bit more. And I know some of the corporates are going, oh, no, we cannot. Oh, go around the corner and go hug in the boardroom or something. Shake hands, interact, share meals together. Instead of having a formal meal where you go sit in the cafeteria area and everybody's got their, those false masks on of formality. Take your food, go into the boardroom, don't sit down, stand while you eat so you can interact, move, share your plate with someone else, have that human interaction. Guys, we are human. We require human interaction. Zoom is not human interaction. Touch is human interaction. So, yeah, is that okay? So even the ugly, smelly ones in the office, just hug them occasionally. It's fine. You won't die, and they need it. And oxytocin levels will rise. Your brain chemicals will be better. If you can't hug, at least shake hands, but do it a proper, full, touch shake. Just enjoy that process. It's going to be okay. You'll survive. All right. But it's important for us because we need that happy chemical. The next thing we absolutely need, and this is something that lockdown also caused, we went indoors. And the moment we went indoors, we got out of the sun, and we are definitely not getting enough UV anymore. We need UV. It produces vitamin D. It's critical for our serotonin levels to be high. So get out into the sun. If you can't, literally, I know there's some companies that got UV lights inside specifically for that purpose. Buy a UV light, put it in your house if you're a TV addict, you sit in front of the TV the whole day. Put one in your lounge because we need that. It's very important for the serotonin, and serotonin creates a sense of self-significance, not ego, but self-significance. And that's what we need it for. We need to feel that we are significant, we are role players, we're making impact. So we increase the serotonin, and we have that feeling, we tend to act differently, we tend to become better leaders, and we tend to perform a little bit better. So there is another way of fooling your brain into producing serotonin, and that's just going into your memory about past achievements, great achievements, getting your diploma or certificate or degree, getting a great promotion, doing something and some kind of activity where you actually, won, getting an employment reward. That's why a lot of companies put up those rewards, certificates, faces of people in the office. If you do a sale, blow the horn, that happy moment, all these kind of things. What they do is they give us a sense of significance, of self-achievement, and that increases your serotonin production. So that's an absolute critical one. And it's a happy chemical. It makes us perform better. So if you've got all your goals down and your serotonin is higher, you are going to notice you start actually performing better and achieving them a little bit more. Last one I want to talk about there, you need endorphins, guys. We need endorphins. So where do we get endorphins? Best place to get endorphins is to exercise. Endorphins, exercise. Push your body a little bit. Not too much, just push it a little bit. But there's a couple of other tricks. The smell of vanilla. That's why a lot of people love vanilla sticks in the bathroom. The smell of vanilla. Nothing wrong with it. Lavender. Sleep with a little bit of vanilla or lavender under your pillow. It's going to increase your endorphin production, and you're going to feel much happier. Dark chocolate for the chocoholics. Oh yeah, dark chocolate's brilliant for endorphins. So enjoy it. Have your dark chocolate. Treat yourself with it. And then the last one on that list for the endorphins is one of my absolute favorites, and that's spicy food. Spicy food is really, really, really good for your endorphins, and it increases your endorphin levels. So enjoy your spicy food and really allow that to manifest. Now, why is this? Why is all these things important? It's important because all we need to do is realize that the fact that some people are feeling down, despondent, they've lost hope or whatever, it doesn't mean that they're broken. It simply means that part of their brain functionality, if you will, has just been reprogrammed a little bit. It's not broken. But if you know how a program works, then you also know that any program can be reprogrammed. We're not cast in stone. We are creatures that are alive. And the fact that we're alive means that we have got the capability of change. So just because you feel like it now, it's not a life sentence. You are the captain of your own ship. You have got the capability of changing your own brain functionality. You are capable of doing certain things that will retrain the way your brain functions, recalibrate it, and you'll feel the results. Because all you want to do is just retrain the neuron mechanism in how it functions. You want your brain to prune a little bit of the negative functionality neurons and increase the positive functionality in the neurons. So that you can only do through consistent repetition. Repetition is the key. Repetition, stimulation, and consistency. That's where the key lies. So if you do that, what is fascinating, and you start feeling the results of it, you're immediately inspired to do more of it, and you just want more, because we actually get addicted to the positive chemicals. We actually enjoy life more when our neurons function. That's why some people are just very gifted and natural at it. You've probably met some people that are just always bloody happy. It's like just always happy, always happy. How's that possible? It's just the way they've trained their brains. They weren't born that way. Nobody gets born that way. It's learned behavior. All behavior is learned, and these are just learned behaviors through repetition, repetition, repetition. And we get addicted to it. And someone just said, like, give me you one of those, always happy. Always happy. Yeah. But it's the way you've trained your brain, and you're addicted to it, and you love it. And I can tell you now, if you've been like that most of your life, it's really difficult for you to be the opposite. You don't know how to. You really don't know how to. Why? Because all the neurons are wired that way. There's very little. Now, let me think, depressed, negative, anxiety, whatever other types of thoughts. Those neurons are just not functioning. So I hope you guys got something out of that. If you want a little bit more, get hold of Letitia. Let's chat. Let's see what we can do to assist. Obviously, I crammed a huge amount of information into an hour. And I think I can probably talk for another 10 hours on this topic, because there's a lot of other tricks and small things we can do. But I really do hope some of you guys got something out of it.